Hey Tigers, welcome to your digital reteach for biodiversity. This is for Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills 7.10b. It is your job to describe how biodiversity contributes to the sustainability of an ecosystem. First thing I need you to understand is how to get credit for this reteach. So first off, you should have gotten a worksheet from your teacher. On that worksheet, you need to take notes while this video plays. Follow the instructions in the video. If I ask you to write something down or to work out an example, it is expected to be on your notes. Listen and look for all directions during the video. And then when you finish, you need to show those completed notes to your teacher. Only your teacher can give you credit. Once you have credit for the reteach, your teacher will then tell you how that you can redo the reassessment. At that point, they'll talk to you about all your opportunities and what you can do for this Texas Essential Knowledge and Skill. Now for 710b, there's two very important vocabulary words, and those are located on your notes. The first one is biodiversity. We have to understand what this means to have any chance at being successful. So if we break it into two different word parts, the first part is bio, and that basically just means life. When you take biology in high school, it's the study of life. The next word, or next part of the word, is diversity. And this basically just means variety. So if you put the two together, you've got the variety of life in an ecosystem. The next important vocabulary word in there, it's not necessarily even a science term, but it's just a term you got to make sure you understand, is sustainability. The simplest definition I can think of for sustainability is basically that it's supported or that it'll keep going. So those are very, very, very important. So let's go to the next part of your notes and use those simplified definitions. So if we look at the student-friendly wording, if we kind of look at the way the teacher language says it, for the teachers, they know that they need to get you to describe how biodiversity contributes to the sustainability of an ecosystem. That's their job to get you to do. If we take those definitions and make it a little bit simpler for you, this is basically saying, I can describe how the variety of life in an ecosystem contributes and keeps that ecosystem going. That's what this is really about. You have to be able to identify that, and then you have to be able to describe that. Now, when you're looking at that language, a lot of times you're thinking, okay, if I'm describing something, how is that a multiple choice question? And to be honest with you, it's not usually the case. In a perfect world, that would probably always be a short answer or an essay question. But we know that quite often we'll have multiple choice questions. So let's take a look at how this gets tested, the next section of your notes. Okay, here's an example of how this can be used in a multiple choice question. This is a STAR test question from 2014. Now, it's an 8th grade test, but this is a 7th grade question. So question 53, the food webs below model relationships among the organisms in two ecosystems. Then they give us a forest food web, and then they give us a grasslands food web. What we're really looking for, the question that we're looking at, is which ecosystem would be more likely to survive if a disease killed the grasses. Now, looking at that makes it better. That means I don't need to look at the whole entire food web. I can just look at the grasses and how that affects things around it, and then maybe just look at a couple other things. I don't need to study the entire thing. So let's look at the forest food web first. If I look at this food web, here's the grass kind of down here at the bottom. Now, looking at the grass, I can see that there are 4 arrows coming off the grass. The deer eats the grass, the butterfly eats it, the mouse eats it, and so does the cricket. Okay, so 4 different organisms are really depending upon this grass to some degree. Let's look at the food web below that. Here's the grasslands ecosystem. And if we look at the grass on the bottom, we see that the squirrel needs it for food, the rabbit needs it for food, the mouse needs it for food, and this bird or hawk or whatever this is also needs it for food. So they both have 4 different organisms that need the grass. So right now I'm not seeing a big difference. But let's dive back into that question. The question says, well, what's going to happen if disease killed the grasses? Okay, so if we were to completely eliminate the grass, go back to the top to the forest, would that be bad for the butterfly? Well, if I look at it, the answer is kind of. He got his food from two different places. He got his food from the grass, and then the berries on the bush or whatever this is over here, he gets food from there too. But he's not completely eliminated. All right, so what about the mouse? Well, yeah, he's in trouble. He only got food from the grass, so we're going to have major problems with him. What about the cricket? Okay, he's in trouble too. So one creature is completely kind of sort of okay. It's hard to say. The butterfly is going to probably be okay. The deer over here, he's in trouble. He only got from the grass. So we know that's going to happen. But look at the biodiversity in the forest food web. It's not the only plant. You got the bushes with the berries. You got these tree shrub things over here. Not sure what it is, doesn't matter. But there's other things that are low on the food web. Compare that to the grassland food web. If we get rid of the grass here, the squirrel's done. It's not going to take long before he starves. That was the only food he had. The rabbit is done. The mouse is done. This bird is done. And then over enough time, everybody else starts to run out of energy and food because they only had one original source of energy. The grassland food web does not have very much biodiversity at all. It's not diverse. And that really messes up the sustainability. It just can't sustain itself if something bad happens. This only works if everything stays healthy. So if we think about that, it sure sounds like the forest food web is going to be a better option for sustainability. Sure, if we lose the grass, it is definitely going to harm some creatures. Yes, it is. And we might even lose some creatures. But the point is, the ecosystem goes on. It can still sustain itself pretty much. There's other sources of food. There's other ways energy can get around. The forest food web is a much better option. So let's look at our answer choices and try to figure this out. Answer choice A says the forest ecosystem would be the one that would be the most likely to survive as an ecosystem. Well, we agree with that statement. And then it says, because most of the animals can eat other organisms. And they're talking about other stuff other than the grass. And once again, most of them can. So A sounds like the right answer. But we should always check it out and make sure we're right. Letter B says the grassland ecosystem. We thought that was wrong right off the bat. That's not sounding good. And then its reasoning is because several predators compete for food. Yeah, that's true. Several predators do compete for food. But that doesn't give us a reason why the ecosystem would be sustainable or not. So letter B is definitely wrong. Cross that out. Letter C says the forest ecosystem. Okay, well that was one that we liked. So let's look at its reason. It says because it has 3 top predators. There's one right here. There's another one right there. There's one right there. Hey, it does have 3 top predators. That's a true statement. So how do I know if it's A or C? Well, here's where I got to go back and read the question. Now you always got to reread it, and reread it some more. So it says, which ecosystem would most likely survive if a disease killed the grasses? Okay. So letter C talks about top predators. Well, these top predators are so far away from the grass at the bottom that it doesn't matter. That's not really talking about sustainability. So because of that, letter C is not a very good answer. Matter of fact, it's pretty bad. So A beats out C by a long shot. And then letter D says the grasslands again because it has many herbivores. All right, well, it does have 4 herbivores. They're kind of hanging out right down here, right above the grass. But that doesn't make it sustainable. And on top of that, we're pretty sure that the grassland ecosystem is out of luck anyway because it's not sustainable. There's no biodiversity there. It's just got a little bit of stuff. And if disease knocks out that grass, we're in trouble. So because of that, the answer choice is A. It is the forest ecosystem. And the reason why is because most of the animals can eat something else. Because there's biodiversity. There's lots of stuff there. So now it's your turn to describe. Kind of use those concepts. Use those thoughts that you just thought about. All right, so as we go back, now it's your turn to kind of describe what's happening. So think about those concepts you just learned and flip your notes over to the back. On the back, there's a summary section. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a food web in just a little bit. Now, when I tried this, and I had several students try this, everybody needed right about 3 to 10 sentences to do this describing. And on that next slide, I'm going to show you a desert food web. Now, it's just an example, but it's the example that I want you to use to practice how well you understand this concept. I would definitely pause the video so you can continue to see that picture, because that'll help you and give you more time to look at the food web. Now, I need you to make sure that you write about some of the organisms that are on that desert food web. Just like in the last couple examples, we talked about the grass, we talked about the squirrel, the butterfly. So definitely mention those organisms when you're doing the describing. So here's your task. In your very own words, I need you to describe how biodiversity. So here's your desert food web. Go ahead and pause the video here while you answer that question. If you need to see the question, just back the video up. Okay, Tigers, that's all we have for this. When you're done with your writing and you have all your notes completed, take that back to your teacher. If they approve it and they give you credit for this digital reteach, they will let you know what your options are to take one more reassessment. Best of luck.